new knowledge too. And then also Monsignor Pope, who was my favorite.
Okay, I got to mute the mics. Everybody
Okay.
have a good show. Please stand
No
by.
worries.
I feel very called to become a member of the Catholic Church.
Love the Catholic Church. It's just the best place to be.
From the studios of EWTN, this is Open Line. In North America, call toll-free 1-800-585-9396. That's 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985. You can also send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
A tremendous Tuesday to each and every one of you. We are greatly appreciative that you have taken some time out of your busy schedule to join us here. We talked the life issues on Tuesday. Our very own pro-life warrior, Barbara McGuigan, back in the house. If you've got a question or a comment for Barbara, the number's 1-800-585-9396, toll-free anywhere in North America, 1-800-585-9396. If you're outside the United States and Canada, your number is 1-205-271-2985, and we'll put you straight to the front of the line at 1-205-271-2985. You can send us an email, openline@ewtn.com, or you can text your question to Barbara. Text the letters EWTN to 55000. Wait for a response. Text your first name and your question. Message and data rates may apply. I'm Jack Williams. Elena Rodriguez produces the program. Your call screener is Mr. Matt Gubensky, and our pro-life warrior hosting the program, as she does every Tuesday, our very own newly de-cataractized Barbara McGuigan. Barbara, how are you?
I'm happier than a hippie who made it through customs.
Oh, well, there you go. That's a good one. I like that.
I heard that somewhere.
Did your ophthalmologist tell you that while he was?
No,
Okay.
he didn't. It was quite amazing, though, Jack. I'm telling you, because
And just so for anyone who may be wondering what we're talking about, we had a mailbag show that was pre-recorded last week because Barbara was having a cataract removed.
Yes, exactly, and just had one bad eye, and but the whole thing is, you watch the whole thing. They pry your eye open, and you see the whole thing. I actually saw the lens being removed with the spokes in it, and it looked like a dirty window coming off my eye. It was quite amazing. Quite.
I don't know if I would be down with that.
Well, I'll tell you, it's weird because, you go into surgery and, that's okay. But when it's on your eyes, you kind of want to think twice about it. But anyway, it's and the colors. I thought I rose from the dead, Jack. I saw colors that I haven't seen in 5 years.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
We've been meaning to talk to you about that lipstick. Maybe you'll be able to. No, I'm just kidding you.
Get out of here.
1-800-585. Now, you asked for that. You cannot. You know better than to leave a door standing wide open like that.
I definitely know. I never. Yes, you're right.
1-800-585-9396. We've got a text that came in from the Dallas area, listener to KATH, Guadalupe Radio, AM 910 in Dallas. And Bob wants to know, Barbara, can you be pro-life and anti-anchor baby?
Yes.
So you may want to explain what an anchor baby is in the immigration lingo before we go any further.
And I will do that. It's a very great question, and I very reservedly would say yes, because Bob's definitely not calling for death by abortion when anchor babies are conceived. So why my reservation? Here's the question, Jack, that I think we all need to answer. What do we think? We have to examine ourselves to see how Catholic our stance is on immigration, which has become so politicized. I mean, it's hard now because it's now a political issue. But I first wanted to know exactly what the Catholic Church's position is on birthright citizenship. Because, and this was new information for me, believe it or not, the whole birthright citizenship controversy centers on the proper interpretation of, this makes sense, the citizenship clause, which was intended to reverse the 1857 Dred Scott decision, Dred Scott versus Sanford decision, in which the Supreme Court held at that time that U.S.-born persons of African descent were not citizens, thereby denying citizenship to slaves and freemen alike. Then the post-Civil War Congress restored and made constitutional the English common law doctrine of jus soli, which had been done away with by the Supreme Court SCOTUS Dred Scott decision. So now, according to the USCCB, most unauthorized immigrants come to the United States looking for jobs, not to give birth on U.S. soil. And because it's been so politicized, I've heard just the opposite, but that's politics. And the argument that countless unauthorized immigrants are obtaining legal status through so-called anchor babies is erroneous. A U.S. citizen cannot apply for a visa for an immediate family member. In other words, the immigrants would come and then have a baby on U.S. soil, and boom, the baby's a U.S. citizen, so that would basically automatically keep them here, even illegally, okay? So they'd have what they call anchor babies. It would keep them anchored in the United States. But what the bishops are saying is a U.S. citizen cannot apply for a visa for an immediate family member, parent, or sibling until that U.S. citizen is 21 years of age. And even then, the wait for a visa is often years long. So the unlawfully present parent of a U.S.-born child would have to wait 21 years to apply for lawful status through her U.S.-born child, and then often many years more before it's conferred upon her. Did you know that, Jack? That was new knowledge to me. I did not know it either.
It's a long time.
It's a long time. So the position of the church is that there are legitimate concerns surrounding immigration law enforcement in the United States, and the church believes that our country must pass immigration reform laws to ensure the rule of law, while simultaneously ensuring that the laws that rule are rooted in the reunification of family and respectful of the human dignity of the immigrants in our midst. And, you know, some people want to repeal this birthright citizenship idea in this country. This is where the politics come in. But the church opposes this action because it would render innocent children stateless, depriving them of the ability to thrive in their communities and to reach their full potential. And then the church believes that a repeal of birthright citizenship would create a permanent underclass in U.S. society, contravening U.S. democratic tradition, undermining the human dignity of innocent children who would be punished though they did nothing wrong, and ultimately weakening the family. Because of this, the church opposes the current efforts underway for its appeal. So, there's more that we can talk about when it comes to this. Monsignor Pope, one of my favorites in the whole wide world, he came out with a great article in the National Catholic Register, and basically asking the question, how Catholic is your stance on immigration? We've talked about this before. We've talked about St. Thomas Aquinas and what his opinion was. And so if anyone wants to discuss this, Jack, that's awesome too.
1-800-585-9396 is our toll-free number. 1-800-585-9396. We'd love to hear your comments on any immigration issue or any of the life issues from womb to tomb. Open Line Tuesday with our very own pro-life warrior, Barbara McGuigan.
I invite people to tune in to Women of Grace Live if they want to be encouraged, if they want to be instructed, if they want to be inspired. These opportunities present themselves not only through what we have to share on the air, but through the many calls that come in through our listeners. I am always amazed at how my own faith is edified through what our listeners share with us. I'm Janet Benkovic, inviting you to join me weekday mornings at 11 Eastern for Women of Grace on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
Be touched by the sacredness of the Most Blessed Sacrament, the resting place of Mother Angelica, plus tour the EWTN campus. Start your Catholic pilgrimage today with EWTN. Call 205-271-2966.
Living the Beatitudes with Father Bjorn.
Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. This strange beatitude reminds us that Jesus is challenging us with his ways to heaven on a new exodus. We're leaving behind the Egypt of this world to find the eternal paradise of heaven. When we tend to think of happiness, we tend to think of it in a self-centered way, a possession of a temporary good or passing fancy. But Jesus is calling us into eternal happiness. And actually, morality is a search for happiness, says Dominican priest Surveys Pink Hairs. We're looking to be happy, and a lot of times we end up at dead-end roads that don't lead us to where we want to go. How can we be blessed when we mourn? In sorrow and difficulty, hardship and cross, we are called closer to Jesus. It's God's fingerprint in our heart reminding us that we're made for eternal happiness. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
Hello, this is Bishop Robert Baker from the Diocese of Birmingham in Alabama.
I'm Peggy Normandin, but you can call me Catholic.
Hello, friends. This is Father Wade Menezes of the Fathers of Mercy. A very blessed and happy Lent from all of us here at the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question or comment, call 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985 or send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
One line open for you at 1-800-585-9396. That's toll free anywhere in North America. 1-800-585-9396. Our pro-life warrior, Barbara McGuigan, is in the house. To the phones we go. Our leadoff hitter today is watching on YouTube. Caleb's in Fort Wayne, Indiana, watching on YouTube. Hi, Caleb. You're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Hi, Caleb.
Hey. Well, hello.
What's up?
Well, I'm calling because, okay, I'll just go ahead and ask the question. Now, I just want to say right off the bat that I am anti-abortion in most cases. I myself wouldn't recommend it for anybody. However, it's my understanding that Catholics want to define abortion as murder in every possible circumstance. Is that right?
Well, not just Catholics, for Pete's sake, good man. There's all kinds of people that are against abortion.
Well, sure, but this is a Catholic channel. I'm talking to a Catholic, so I don't know about other faiths and such, but...
okay. Are you a Catholic, Caleb?
I am not,
okay.
But I'm very open to the idea.
Well, awesome. Keep listening, good man. Good. That's
well,
good.
I do, actually. Thank you. I listen every day, actually.
Awesome.
And speaking of, shout out to Shannon on YouTube. Love you, girl. Anyway, my question is this. So I would define murder as the taking of a human life wherein it's not necessary to take that life, which is why I would say that if you were defending yourself from an attacker, for example, that's not murder should you kill that individual. That's self-defense.
It's self-defense.
Manslaughter.
You're absolutely right. You can't kill the innocent. That's kind of the bottom line on this. You're killing the innocent. The commandment is thou shalt kill, but really when you look back on it, it would be translated as thou shalt not murder. And that means that you are taking the life of an innocent human person.
Sure.
Okay?
And, like I said, I'm anti-murder just as much as anybody else. However, I'm not a pacifist. I understand that there are situations wherein it's going to be necessary to take another human life. A just war, for example. There's plenty of Christians, Catholics, and Jews that can rationalize killing in those instances. So what I'm wondering is, that being the case, why is it that in situations, for example, in an ectopic pregnancy where it's A, unviable, and B, likely to kill the mother, why it's still considered a sin, I suppose, I think is the right word.
It all, okay.
Have an abortion.
Okay, it all comes down to intent. Intent, as far as an ectopic abortion goes, the baby cannot grow in a fallopian tube. The tube will burst, and then that puts the mother at great risk as well. So again, the intent is not to kill the baby, but it would be to save the mother's life by removing the unborn child, or the fetus basically at this point, from the fallopian tube. Okay?
So, okay. I apologize.
No, you don't have to apologize. There's nothing wrong if you have an ectopic pregnancy. If you're talking about the unborn child being an aggressor upon the mother because he or she happens to be there, was conceived there, that would be murder, because that's not the child. The mother does not need to defend herself against her child. She just needs to bring that little child to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Got it?
Well, sure. So I'm curious then, that being the case, because I was under the impression that all abortion, which was wrong even in extreme situations, so that's not the case then, right?
No, that's not the case, but we don't really say, a long time ago they used to call it a therapeutic abortion. For example, if a mother, one doctor gave me, a pro-life doctor gave me this example one time, if a mother had a cancerous uterus and the baby was not able to grow in that particular uterus, if they remove the uterus with the baby inside, again, the intent, it's the principle of double effect, okay? The intent is not to kill the baby, but it is to save the mother's life. The baby couldn't grow in the uterus. Now, one day, like Dr. Nathanson used to say, one day we'll be able to possibly have the technology to remove these little growing babies from the fallopian tube or even from a cancerous uterus and then help the baby to grow. I mean, it's kind of sounds like we're talking outer space here, but you never know. You never know what God will permit mankind to discover. Yes?
Well, I'm actually, you have completely changed my opinion on the Catholic views on abortion in a single conversation, which is great. But I do have one last question, if you don't mind, which does pertain.
Okay, go ahead.
In the case, I'm sorry if I'm taking up too much time, but
no, go ahead. Yeah.
How do you incorporate this into your political worldview? I mean, such that would it be? I hate to try to generalize all Catholics, but would it be ideal in the Catholic worldview if all abortions were illegal except for in these situations, or is it preferable that all abortions are illegal?
Well, you see, here's the thing. The doctors will try to save both the mother and the baby. All life is sacred from the moment of conception until natural death. Okay, that's the very basic principle. Why is all life sacred? Because all life comes from God and returns to God. Because of our origin and our destiny. We came from God, we're going back to God. And so that's the bottom line principle. So if you have a hard case, like, where the baby cannot grow in the fallopian tube or in the uterus, okay, and nothing else can be done, the intent then is to save the mother's life, not to kill the baby, but to save the mother's life. So when you take abortion across the board, all life is sacred. That's the first principle that has to be applied. You have to do everything you can to save both mother and baby. But sometimes the procedure that you would have to take, the baby, because of its age, the mother has a much better chance of surviving than the baby. These are rare cases, though, Caleb. This is very, very, very rare because doctors strive to save both. Okay?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, it sounds like there should be two different words here instead of just one, then, one for a situation. Like, because like I said, I'm against abortion.
Yeah.
If it's to save the mother's life, I don't think that should be considered an abortion at that point, in my opinion. It's not murder. I mean, if you want to define abortion as murder, that's not murder. That's preservation of life.
Well, and it's really not an abortion.
No, it's really not.
It would be a fallopian resection, or
that's it, or removing the whole uterus. Good point, Jack. It would be removing the whole uterus, and that's not an abortion. Again, the intent is not to kill the baby ever.
Do you know what the bottom line of this whole conversation is, Caleb? You're a lot more Catholic than you thought you were.
At least as far as the abortion thing, absolutely. I mean, like you said, you completely changed my misconceptions on it in one conversation. I was expecting the conversation to go a completely different direction.
There you go. Well, that's okay. I'm glad you called in. I'm glad you called, and keep listening, okay?
God bless you, Caleb. We appreciate the phone call. That frees up a line for you at 1-800-585-9396. That's the number Charlie used. He's listening in Cleveland, Ohio to EWTN on Sirius XM Channel 130. Charlie, you're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Hi, Charlie.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Thanks for a wonderful show.
Praise God. Thank
I
you
have a
for
question.
saying
so. What, according to our teachings, are the obligations of the immigrant?
Okay, that is a very, very good, and this is why, that's a good question, and this is why I'd like to refer you to Monsignor Charles Pope, his National Catholic Register article, and it's called How Catholic is Your Stance on Immigration. And here's basically what he says. He's always very crystal clear, even in such a complex issue as immigration. So what he does, he cites scripture, he cites the catechism, and then we can come to the conclusion that these sources, weigh heavily toward the generous and just treatment of refugees, sojourners, and foreigners in our midst, while reminding them to be productive and prayerful for the nation that hosts them. Okay, so they have an obligation too, and that's what you're talking about. Now, he refers us to the teaching of the church in the catechism, which enshrines both principles, that we are generous and just in treating refugees, sojourners, and foreigners, and the sojourners and foreigners are words used in Scripture, while reminding them, hey, you need to be productive and prayerful for the nation that hosts you. So this is the two principles, and so like what he says, and this is a catechism quote, 2241, if you want to look it up. The more prosperous nations are obliged, to the extent they are able, to welcome the foreigner in search of the security and the means of livelihood which he cannot find in his own country. Public authorities should see to it that the natural right is respected, that places a guest under the protection of those who receive him. Now, second paragraph. Political authorities, for the sake of the common good for which they are responsible, may make the exercise of the right to immigrate subject to various juridical conditions, especially with regard to the immigrant's duties toward their country of adoption. In our case, the United States. Immigrants are obliged to respect with gratitude the material and spiritual heritage of the country that receives them, to obey its laws, and to assist in carrying civic burdens. That's the Catechism, number 2241. And although these principles are meant to balance each other out, one or the other is often discarded by those on the extremes. That's where it becomes political. So we're called to accept immigrants generously, especially those escaping political or economic oppression, but the rule of law, which is meant to preserve order and benefit the common good, you got to look at the whole country, is also important. And he goes on to quote St. Thomas in the Summa, and he said, first, when foreigners pass through the land as travelers, they have to look at that. Second, when they come to dwell in their land as newcomers. And in both these respects, the law made kind provision in its precepts, for it is written, thou shalt not molest a stranger. And again, thou shalt not molest a sojourner. So man's relations with foreigners are twofold, peaceful and hostile. And in directing both kinds of relation, the law contained answers this whole thing. So then he gets into that as well. So it's really good. So read the Catechism 2241 and also How Catholic is Your Stance on Immigration, and you will have a good handle on this, Charlie. I'm glad you called.
1-800-585-9396. Open Line Tuesday with Barbara McGuigan.
EWTN News Nightly with Lauren Ashburn.
I've been a journalist in Washington for 25 years. I've covered car chases, 9/11, hurricanes. At this point in my career is my time to make a difference. EWTN News Nightly takes our Christian Catholic values and shines a light on what the government is or isn't doing and attempts to spur them to action.
EWTN News Nightly with Lauren Ashburn. Weekdays at 9 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
EWTN is now on Twitter. Get short, timely messages from EWTN on your computer or cell phone. It's easy to stay up to date on a wide variety of topics. Pro-life news, Vatican announcements, catechesis, apologetics, the latest EWTN programming, and more. You can link to EWTN on Twitter from our homepage or go to twitter.com/EWTN. At work, at home, at school, and on the road. Stay connected to your world with EWTN's Twitter page.
It's time for Family Man with Dr. Gregory Popchak.
People like to bash the faithful with statistics. For instance, you've probably heard that studies show that Christians divorce at the same rate as others. Or how about the report that claims that Christians are bad tippers? Well, according to the University of Connecticut sociologist Bradley Wright, statements like these simply don't apply to people who actually practice their faith. For instance, only 25% of weekly church-going Catholics are divorced compared to 50% of the general population. As for tipping, a Cornell University study found that church-going Christians tip an average of 17%. Obviously, Christians aren't perfect, but practicing our faith really does give us the grace we need to stand up against the pressures the world can apply. So the next time someone tries to bash your faith with research, take it with a grain of salt. I'm Dr. Greg Popchak, but you can call me Family Man.
To discover more ways faith can enrich your life, visit CatholicCounselors.com.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question or comment, call 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985 or send an email to openline@EWTN.com.
If you should happen to get a busy signal, keep trying. We will roll through as many phone calls as we can in the remainder of the hour. 1-800-585-9396 is our toll-free number. To the banks of the Illinois River we go. Jean is in Peoria, listening on St. Bernadette Radio. Jean, you're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Hi, Jean.
Hi.
How can I help?
Taking my call.
Sure.
Well, I was listening to your conversation with Caleb regarding abortion, quote unquote, in difficult situations.
Yes.
And as a physician, I thought I would comment on that.
Awesome.
You are quite right in what you said, that when it comes to a situation in which a procedure has to be done surgically for a mother whose life is in danger,
yes,
that is not called an abortion.
Right.
It is called by the name of the procedure that is going to be performed, such as a woman with a cancerous uterus is having a hysterectomy.
Yes.
Or in the case of a situation, and I can speak from this personally, I have personal knowledge of two women who were pregnant each of them had difficulties with the placenta in about the 24th, 25th week of pregnancy. Started bleeding very heavily, and had pregnancy continued, mother would have bled to death. And in both of those situations, an emergency cesarean section was performed to deliver the baby, although prematurely, but for the purpose of being able to remove the placenta, which was causing the problem. In both of those situations, the mothers were saved and the babies were saved. One is now my nephew, 35 years old.
Oh, that's great.
And the other is my daughter, Gina Maria.
Wow, that's beautiful. Beautiful.
Gina was born 16 weeks early. She weighed 1.25 pounds, which is about 5 sticks of butter.
Goodness.
And now she's 7.
Oh, praise God. And you, the grandma, were able to save her, huh?
I am not grandma.
Oh, you're not grandma?
She's the mom.
I'm
mom. Oh, my goodness. Okay, I'm sorry. I missed that point.
No,
goodness.
Gina Maria is my daughter.
Is your daughter? Okay,
yeah.
Wow.
Although we adopted her. The pregnancy problem was with her biological mother, but her biological mother had the courage to, and the proper medical guidance through our local Catholic hospital to undergo emergency cesarean section so that mother and baby would live.
Okay.
And both mother and baby lived. And I'm calling with these true stories to support what you said.
Yes.
That if mother and baby can be saved, actually mother has a better chance if that is attempted.
Sure.
It's
Makes
actually medically safer for mom to try to save both.
Sure.
And yeah.
Well,
so
praise God.
Babies did not have to die, although moms' lives were at risk. Moms and babies both lived. And yes, when a procedure has to be performed to halt a pregnancy because mom's life is at risk, that is not called an abortion.
I'm glad that you really
not.
clarified that because, yes, it would be a hysterectomy in a cancer case to remove the whole uterus. So,
right.
Oh,
Or
I'm
a
so glad you
cesarean section.
called. Dr. Jean, I'm glad you called. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate being able to help out some little bit.
Well, you helped out a lot, and God bless you for listening, and God bless you for calling.
Thank you. Have a good
All
afternoon.
right. You too. Bye-bye.
Next stop, Middletown, New Jersey. Mary's in Middletown, listening to EWTN on Sirius XM Channel 130. Mary, what's your question or comment for Barbara?
Hi, Mary.
Hi.
How can we help?
As a healthcare professional,
yes,
and as a friend, somebody had told me that they were faced with the baby had a diagnosis of multiple anomalies, which the baby never would have lived, and this person chose to end the pregnancy. And I struggled with knowing what to say because she wasn't asking me really my opinion. She was just sharing with me something that she had gone through. And, you know, really my initial reaction was, I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. But as a result of this situation, she herself is, I found, to be struggling. Parents are devout.
Yeah.
And so I think it's caused a little bit of again, I can't tell you exactly what has happened, but the ripple effect
sure
has created a little bit of a rift.
I don't doubt that. I mean, it's such a painful thing, and especially if she didn't get any kind of counseling on this, pro-life counseling on this, because I don't know if you heard me, Mary, if you heard me talk about baby Nevin, holy little saint. This little baby was diagnosed at 5 months in utero with trisomy 18. And the baby had all kinds of problems, deformities, and his little heart. They named him Nevin, which means holy little saint in Gaelic, right? And holes in the heart and all kinds of serious problems. And a couple people advised her, especially her doctor, of course, said, this baby's not going to live anyway. It'll probably die in utero, or it'll die 1 hour or 2 after with this problem. So you should just, terminate the pregnancy. And even their priest friend, who wasn't up on the church's teachings, he thought that she should follow their doctor's orders. Because a lot of people will tell you that. Oh, I think you should listen to your doctor, right? Well, they were pro-life. They were formed to be pro-life. They understood what it meant, that life is sacred, that God is in charge. God is in control of this little life. They prayed for a miracle, Mary, and they kept praying, and all the subsequent ultrasounds that they had revealed all of the same serious problems. They brought in a perinatal hospice to take care of and get them through. That's what they do. They get you through the pregnancy. Well, at 7 months, the baby was 2.5 pounds, and she went into labor. And the mother, Lisa Brown, goes into labor. They drugged her up pretty well. They delivered the baby. She noticed something on the baby's chest, but she was so groggy. But the midwife, the doula, was there. Not the midwife, the doula was there. The doctor was there. The priest was there. Long story short, Mary, they kept praying all along for a miracle, that this baby would be healed, or then towards the end that this baby would just be with God. That was the miracle, that they wanted to have a sign. And the sign, the baby came out of the uterus with a 2 by 3 inch cross of broken blood vessels. 2 by 3 inch definite cross. If this was not a sign from God, to this date, no one has ever seen anything like this. And so they've opened up a cause for his canonization to represent all those little babies who are going to have some kind of problem. And who in the world doesn't have a problem or two, right? Or the baby might be born with some other chromosomal kind of disability, right? Like a child with Down syndrome. This little guy will represent all of these babies saying, please give them life. They belong to God. What this little kid has done so far, he only lived for an hour. The priest baptized him. The doctor, they burst into tears. They sobbed when they saw this 2 by 3 inch cross over the baby's heart. It was over the baby's heart. We have pictures. You can go to COG4Life. COGFORLIFE.org, and you can pull up the whole story about this. And if you want to pray, I gave out, when I was just speaking at a women's conference, 655 ladies. I only had 500 of these holy cards, but they grabbed them. And a lot of them had gone through something, not a lot, I shouldn't say, but they either knew of someone or they themselves had a difficult decision to make like this. And it gives you courage, it gives you hope and strength. God is in control. This little baby lived for an hour. They only got to love the baby for an hour. They only got to hold the baby for an hour. But it meant the world to them. The world to them. And the doula took pictures, and that's how we know we have the exact picture. The priest said he will never recommend abortion again in a situation like this, or to listen to the OB. The OB carries a picture of the baby in her wallet and said she will never recommend abortion again for a disability. That's the story. You can always tell an Irishman marry when they can't make a long story short, and that's me. Okay?
Yes. Thank you.
God bless you, dear heart. You don't worry. But if she comes up to you again and she wants to talk some more, I mean, she knew what she knew. She did what she did because she was advised by her doctor, whom I'm sure she put trust in. But that's not the pro-life decision, really, as you can see.
Yeah. Right.
All righty. God bless you, dear heart.
Thanks
you for calling.
We've got one line open at 1-800-585-9396. Still time for your phone calls. 1-800-585-9396. You know, Barbara, we do a lot of stuff at EWTN.
I know
you do a lot of stuff, and we had a little presentation that we gave this past week, and during those times you realize just how much stuff we do at EWTN between television and radio, religious catalog, news, publishing. It goes on and on and on, and there's one place where you can keep abreast of everything that's going on at EWTN, and that's our weekly e-blast newsletter, Wings. And you can sign up for Wings and stay up to date on everything that's happening at EWTN, TV and radio. You can get your Wings today by going to EWTN.com and sign up for our weekly e-newsletter, Wings. Back to the phones we go. Tara is in Youngstown, Ohio, listening on Living Bread Radio. Tara, you're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Hi, Tara.
Hi, Barbara. How are you?
Great, thank you. How can I help?
Thank you. Well, I don't know how I'm going to come after that beautiful story. Thank you for sharing. But I will try. My comment is pertaining to the immigration and the Catholic Christian stance. I just wonder if there's any talk about how, because I did live for 5 years in California, and I saw a lot of people that were here illegally. And I wonder if there's ever talk about the effect that has on the people living in the shadows. They're living, not necessarily people that have done something wrong besides come here illegally, as far as committing crimes against others goes. But the fact that a lot of people hire them to work in their homes and at restaurants, I've seen it, and pick up day laborers, and they're not being, they're not able to pay into taxes and become citizens by doing that. And so I think it's a disservice. I believe it's also politically affiliated. And then number two, it also affects others, and I've seen it affect myself and my roommate. When we were let go of a job, we could not get help because we were women that were not with child or had children, but we saw others from other countries getting help, and we're glad that they did. However, that being said, my concern also goes out to people here that have paid into the system and may need help at one point or another, which can be really anyone. So I just wanted to ask what the church's stance was on that. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll tell you, if you listen to the top of the show, you might want to go back and listen to the show, listen to the podcast, because I gave the teaching. The position of the church is that there are legitimate concerns surrounding immigration law enforcement in the United States. Okay, we need legitimate reform. Okay, no one is going to argue with you on that. It has become so political, and this is why in the state of California, which is a Democratic state, it has, like I say, that's why it's political. It's become a serious problem. So we have to have the immigration reform, but we just have to remember, as you beautifully stated, we have to remember that they are children of God, right? We all are temples of the Holy Spirit, and we have to respond with generosity and with love. I mean, in my church, we are taking care of a Syrian family who came over, and they're not Catholic, but they're Christian, and I was happy to see that they were Christian. But even if they weren't Christian, they're not coming here in this instance, in this particular instance, to do us any harm. And that's what we have to look at, too. There's a lot to this. It's a very complex issue, as I said. But but the teaching of the church, look up the catechism. Catechism, what is it, 2241. Look up the catechism, look up St. Thomas, and also go to How Catholic is Your Stance on Immigration? Because if anyone is going to do us harm, and this was the reason that foreigners in the scriptures were not given citizenship right away, and this is what St. Thomas said. The reason for this was that if foreigners were allowed to meddle with the affairs of a nation as soon as they settled down in its midst, many dangers might occur, since the foreigners are not yet having the common good firmly at heart, might attempt something hurtful to the people. Okay, this is St. Thomas Aquinas in the Summa. Okay, so, and even in the scriptures, they believe that people who immigrated to a certain country should be admitted to the fellowship of the people after the third generation, until they were able to develop concern for the common good. They weren't coming to set up their own gig, in other words. They were coming to assimilate. The melting pot. Remember all the immigrants that came over, and we called it a melting pot. Well, if the immigrant doesn't want to melt, therein lies a problem. And that's where we have to look at the whole culture and see what's happening, and then get some reform. So that's the best I can do on this. It's very complex, Tara. You understand?
Yes. So then, would the church then be for or against or neutral then regarding building a wall?
Oh, now see, there you got the politics entering into it. The church, I think, for the most part, would be against building a wall. I do think, for the most part, they would be. But this is a really different situation. Because when you have and we know this to be fact, that some ISIS people are coming in with refugees. And so many of these people are innocent, but the ones that aren't can do us great harm. So St. Thomas Aquinas would say, if they are hostile to the common good of any given country, do they have a right to be admitted? Therein lies the problem.
Thanks, Tara. Appreciate the phone call. To the Republic of Texas we head next. Rose has a bit of a cautionary tale for us, listening on Guadalupe Radio. Rose, thanks so much for calling. You're on with Barbara.
Hi, Rose.
Barbara. It's good to be able to talk to you for a minute or two.
Oh, thank you for calling and for waiting, too.
Well, I want to give you just a brief little experience I had over 40 years ago, close to 45 years ago. I'm 77 now, and so I had been married. I was very happy. We had about 7 years, and then the marriage started to go downhill. Had 4 children and 1 miscarriage. By the way, we baptized that the child that I miscarried.
Beautiful.
We were able to baptize him at home. Before I went to the hospital, and then since things were so bad between me and my husband, I said, I've got to do something. The children were still young, very small. I mean, 6 years was the oldest one. I went to a priest for some counseling, talked to him what I should do, how I could fix it. We talked about having a sterilization procedure done. After visiting with him for several times, he said, go ahead.
The priest?
Yes, a Catholic priest. So I did, trying to save the marriage. It didn't quite do that the way I thought it would. However, we continued to work at the marriage, and despite the ups and downs, we are still together and still keeping our promises to one another. And but the point I'm trying to make is that I want any young woman that hears what happened to me to rule out that procedure as doing any good in any marriage.
Exactly.
It did nothing but cause me a terrible life after that. What I mean by that is you talked about all the time about abortion, how that affects the women and the men afterwards. And it's when I hear that on the radio, I just want people to know that having a sterilization procedure can cause the same kind of results.
Yes.
I have never gotten over it. I was in my 30s, early 30s. I could have had more children, and I was in good health.
But you know what, Rose? You didn't know. I have to be quick because we're almost ready to close the show. But you were not aware. God knows your heart in this whole thing. You were wrongly counseled. And, and you did confess it, right? You confessed it, yes?
Of course.
Okay, of course. So, what I always was taught by different priests on how to handle a situation like this, if you want to put a little salve on the wound, just abstain so many days a month. Now, this, is something that would apply to a 30-year-old or 40-year-old, whatever. But that's the way, because God just wants a change of heart from us. And you did have a beautiful change of heart. And I'm thankful you're still with him. He's probably your ticket to heaven. Yes?
Me too. But any young woman, please, please, please hear my words.
Yes.
I feel I had to get that out on public because of what I did. I want others to know not to do it under any circumstances.
Well, you did get it public, Rose, and God love you, dear heart, for calling. And don't beat yourself up. You went to confession. We will meet a merciful God when we die. We will meet a merciful God. And we know that, and that's what we have to remember. So God bless you.
Thanks, Rose, for the phone call. Quickly, we'll head to Margaret in Seattle, Washington, who's listening on Sacred Heart Radio. Margaret, you're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Hi, Margaret. We only have a couple of minutes or so.
Yes, I just wanted to ask your prayers and the prayers of the listeners for my daughter's mother-in-law who is dying. She had cancer. She's doing well with the cancer, but she's depressed. She has given up hope, so she is not eating or drinking. The doctor thinks she's going to die within a week. She's 63 years old.
Oh,
this poor woman.
Oh, that's so sad.
It is very sad.
Oh, my goodness, we will. Do you know her name, and we can all pray for her tonight?
Yes, her name is Denise Mallon.
Okay, Denise, let's all pray for Denise, everyone. Is she Catholic? Does she have the last rites? The priest is ministering to her? What is the deal? Do you know?
She's just nominally Catholic. I doubt if she's been to Mass in many
Okay, well,
years.
that's good enough. That's okay. She's on her deathbed. Get a priest in there. Get a priest in there to hear her confession. She will open up to a whole new world. You got to do this quickly, though, Margaret. Please, quickly, okay? Whoops. Maybe she hung.
Oh, there she is.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Did you hear what I said, Margaret?
Oh, to get the priest in.
Oh, absolutely, yes. We lost you for a minute, so I wasn't sure. Even if she balks at this, get the priest in and let him handle it. Let him talk to her. Please do this. My mother has done this for more people, and they were so relieved. She believes they're going to get her to heaven. God bless you.
God bless you, Margaret. We appreciate it. We will keep you and your daughter's mother-in-law in our prayers. On behalf of our host, Barbara McGuigan, producer Elena Rodriguez, and our call screener, Matt Kubensky, I'm Jack Williams. Thanks so much for taking a little bit of time out of your day to join us on Open Line. Back at it tomorrow, talking church teaching and scripture with Father Mitch Pacwa. Until we get together then, God bless.